Glance helps SaaS marketers and growth marketers identify customers who are with the intent of buy, upgrade, or churn. We do this through smart segmentation. What does smart mean? Smart means combining the knowledge of all the activities they do, either on your product, your CRM, your marketing, web analytics, and everything else. It's a multi channel data stream that we combine to
Mhm.
create these smart segments. And the overarching goal is for a marketer, growth ops, or RevOps team to figure out who's the most actionable segment. The challenge to this is you have to have a whole data science setup. You have to have a data science team. You don't need to do all of that with Glance. And that's the beauty. So any SaaS business with a growth, marketing ops, and RevOps, these
Mhm.
guys should definitely take a look at us. A co-founder and CEO, I do two different hats, which is kind of counterintuitive. I do I do engineering and marketing and sales, which is kind of counterintuitive. The question is always the SEO is always relevant. Okay, SEO relevant. I think SEO late is in our case. We should have started it 2 years ago, if you really ask me. And we had a false start, guys. We had a false start. We tried doing SEO. We were haphazard. We didn't have an idea. We went with a do it all once for all team who could take care of content, who could take care of writing and SEO. And we thought, okay, we'll improve rankings by doing blogging. Apparently, it's not that easy. It needs more research. It needs more niche thinking. And you guys came through recommendation. And the biggest thing in my book, which gets it right, is when another entrepreneur recommends somebody that they're working with, that's a big check mark for me personally, right? When I spoke to you, Ishan, what I saw was the flexibility and understanding. I've been sold things before. You were very low key. You were not about that, but you talked about the subject area, which appealed to me in a nicer way. I looked at it. One thing I did ask for is I couldn't deal with I have a different writing team than that of you guys who are a strategy team and a SEO team. I didn't
Yeah.
think that setup would work, but thankfully you guys have made it work, and I'm very happy about that. At a startup at our size, budget is always important. You are willing to work with us and consider us for those ideas also. And the second thing is always about people always make it very relative, saying that I'll give you so many articles, I'll do this. While that is all important, when you don't know what the results are going to be, we tend to focus on the output of work. We don't see the outcome of work. So I like that approach of outcome when I spoke to you, rather than just saying that we will deliver this. Yes, you also have deliverables and limits, but you are much more, what do you call, reasonable. And it seemed like your pitch appealed to me. That's all I can say at this time. Work has been firstly taking a benchmark of where the site is as is initially. That was very important for us to figure out what's our starting point or baseline from which we were starting. Figure out all the issues and the technical issues that may be pointed out and needed fixing. Then there were some title headers and stuff that you guys would recommend on the way. Then you guys spent a ton of keyword analysis, but you also did competitive research. So your competitive research, you looked at our competitors, you scale, you figured out whether they were ranking for keywords, and you knew that we had overlapping. We are somewhat of a new category of software, so you had to find overlapping subject areas to create a strategy, to create a piercing presence, as I call it, because the world will go on without hearing about you. But in our case, we need to be heard. And you guys were looking at that strategy and stuff. And I think Saurajit and you were involved in the research of our competitors, figuring out how to attract, penetrate, and do it in a meaningful way. What has been interesting for me is your willingness to explore areas. You're learning the subject brand new. I like the enthusiasm with which Saurajit creates penetrating keywords, strategies like where to overlap existing search terms with what we do and still get surfaced. And I'm very happy about the early results. So that I think has been very collaborative. And I like the approach of you coordinating directly with our writing team, and you don't make me a bottleneck to facilitate. You don't just pass the buck and say, I'm done with my responsibility. You do it end to end. which I really appreciate. And your Slack communication is very good. Usually we had one guy who was a technical SEO, one who was a copywriter, and then who was an editor. I used to come up with subject lines. I didn't have this thing. Here, the team composition is one of your person actually does the research, the keywords, and the subject lines. Then there is a writing team that takes over, and you guys provide the content brief. You provide the SEO brief, which is pretty elaborate, which I like a lot. That research, the keywords, and everything goes into it. And the SEO, the writing team then takes up and creates an early brief. You guys go and review it, provide your comments and inputs, and then I finally approve. I also have another editor, copy editor from the US, who edits out content that is being written from the writers in remote sections that we are engaging from. So this has been the workflow, and we're using, of course, Narrato as the content workflow software. Sophia Solanki is a friend who referred us to you. So thank you, Sophia. You get a mention. But that's how we're working through this. Going into the project, I had hope, but I did not have major expectation. Let me say that. I had dampened down my expectations because of various false starts, and everybody promises the world, right? What was interesting was I got 2 inbound leads. The inbound leads were not a submission on the website, but people reading the content and coming back and saying that this struck our nerve. We like what you're saying. This content is relevant to us. And those inbound leads reached out to me through LinkedIn. So I want to be very clear about how we got those inbound leads, but they were from our network. Yeah. This has not happened before 8 months, and they were all purely content. I know because they responded to my content posts. When I take every one of my content posts, put on LinkedIn, abstract it out for a different community platforms, and people reached out to me and said this was very interesting, and we actually converted into one customer. So I was extremely happy from the ROI. And the second thing is we've seen that the ranking of our page for a certain search result shows up in the first 10 or 12 impressions, which is pretty impressive in a short span of time. I would like that to happen again and again and often. We are yet to find the results of getting a lot more traffic and submissions, but I know it's a process. It doesn't happen in one day. I'm hopeful for that also. So overall, I think that is very good. And we're getting some non-branded traffic, and our all the top 3, I think, content pieces were all created by you guys. The one thing that I would do is the strategy sessions that we should have it more regularly, only because we discover newer things. I've seen Saurajit always actionable the moment I give him something. But instead of waiting it to happen, this bi-weekly calls, we have to do it consistently is my recommendation, because we all come up with more ideas, and that's about it right now, I can see. One thing is you guys are more than willing to make other things like partnerships, offers, and you're more than helpful in all of those ways, which I truly appreciate because you show true partnership.